I mean, I've just given myself the chills. The world is changing, and it's changing for women, and that I think is really exciting.
Estamos hoy en un nuevo episodio de Bold Decisions con la increíble, talentosísima cantante, actriz y compositora de Garbage, Shirley Manson. ¿Qué es esto? ¡Qué emocionante! Vamos a descubrir cuáles fueron las decisiones clave que hicieron que Shirley llegara a donde está hoy. ¿Cuál fue la decisión que tomaste en tu infancia para empezar a dedicarte a la música? ¿Qué fue lo que te llevó ahí?
I don't know if I ever actually made a decision in my life with regards to my career. I have stumbled from one thing to another, but I was always really enthusiastic. And I think back to my very first band, Goodbye Mr. Mackenzie, which was a Scottish band that did quite good locally, but you know, we'd be in recording sessions and they would fall into nighttime, and some of the other girls in the band, they would leave because they didn't, you know, it was time for bed or whatever. And I was just one of these people who like hung around and did what needed to be done to get the job complete. And so I think of that sometimes when I think about the long career I've enjoyed, that decision to sort of do what it takes, that has served me really well. And I think that was the first time I figured it out on the fly.
¿Qué otros intereses tenías además de la música?
Originally I wanted to be a ballet dancer. I messed up my body, I became an actor, and then by total default, I met a boy at the acting Edinburgh Youth Theatre, and he said, I have a band and I really need a keyboard player. Will you come and play keyboards for me? And that was the beginning of my career. I don't know if I ever made a decision to leave Scotland to go to America and start my career there with Garbage. The decision was kind of made for me in a way, because I got called up. I was in a clock tower doing the dishes, and I got a phone call from my record company at the time who said, there's a really famous American producer who wants to make a record with you. Will you be interested in meeting him? And so I did decide to go and meet him, but it was a decision that I felt like I couldn't say no. This was like an opportunity that just came along and I grabbed it. But I wish I could take credit for saying, yeah, I'm going to do this. I will decide to do this, but I never did. I just was like, this is a really great opportunity. I'd be an idiot if I turn it down. I'm going to America.
Formas tu sello discográfico y cómo esto te permite a ti y a tu banda tener mucho más libertad creativa.
At some point in our career, as happens to all artists, the heat of our career kind of dissipated, and we were really tired of being told what to do by the major record label system. We just didn't do well in that system. They wanted us to do stuff that I had no interest in doing, and I told the record label, I will not do that. And they said, if you don't do it, then you'll get dropped. And we were like, okay, we're not going to do it. So we had principle, you know, and it could have been the kiss of death, but in the end, what it led to was we set up our own record label, we made our own rules, we refused to compromise. It's just we could do what we wanted, how we wanted, when we wanted. And it was a great lesson, actually, for all of us, but me in particular, because I was the one that was getting pulled in all these directions. As the lead singer, you always are. And I just put my foot down and was like, I'm not going to do things that I don't want to do.
Siempre estas decisiones son muy fuertes de tomar, porque cuando vas en contra de la corriente, a veces sufres como algún riesgo de que quizá puedas salir de ese mundo, ¿no? Y que te vean un poco diferente, pero esa diferencia a ti te ayudó a sobresalir.
I think for a while the record labels were trying to get us to reinvent ourselves. That became the problem. They were like, you've got to like move with the times. You need to go in and make records with rappers. That's what everybody wants to hear nowadays. You won't get on the radio if you don't do a cross, like, you know, over with a rap artist. And we were like, we love rap and we love hip hop, but that isn't anything to do with who we are. I grew up in a monoculture in Scotland, you know. We don't have, you know, rap music in Scotland, you know what I mean? It just isn't from our culture. And I think because we've stuck to our guns, because we've always not wanted to sound like anyone else, 30 years on, we still don't sound like anyone else. And in an industry that has literally millions of records every year, to be able to have your own sound that nobody else can really copy has been invaluable. I think that's one of the reasons we are still here. And so we exist in this sort of strange, amorphous world, like it's a party of one.
Algo súper auténtico, me encanta, me encanta. ¿Cómo es esta decisión desde la valentía de Shirley que dice, voy y voy con todo?
I don't know if I ever decided I was brave until I was quite old, like way years after my career took off. At the beginning, when I went to America, I was scared, and I don't know if I ever stopped being scared all the way through the real climb of my career. I felt that I was going to get found out. I don't know what that means. Imposter syndrome, I guess. So I didn't get brave until my mum died. And I was quite old when my mum died. I was in my 40s. And I think that's when I got brave. When my fierce mum left the world, I'm like, all right, I can't mess around. I've got to be brave. I guess I did make a decision of like, I'm going to make my mum proud. I'm not going to collapse without her. I'm going to thrive.
Te admiramos como mujer y persona por habernos demostrado a muchas que sí se puede a pesar de los dolores que nos da la vida.
That means the world to me. It really matters to me how we as a society treat women. I mean, I'm okay because obviously my career took off and I'm older and I don't have to struggle. But I'm always aware that there's young girls, young teenagers, young women, young artists who are really up against it, and I want them to do well. And I realize that I'm in a position, I have a platform where I get to project an idea of how I imagine society could be.
¿Cómo es que creas y vas formando esta identidad en la música, donde esta industria pues estaba sobre todo pues había muchos hombres al mando, ¿no? Entonces, ¿cómo Shirley con Garbage se vuelve este grupo tan importante y empieza a romper paradigmas?
Well, first of all, I've got an amazing band. So that's a great start, and we've got amazing chemistry. Where I am weak, they have a lot of strengths that compensate for my weakness. We just got really lucky with the chemistry of the band. But second of all, I had a very domineering father growing up. Like, I love him. My dad's my hero. But I grew up under the thumb of a real patriarch. It was his way or the highway. And I grew up sparring with my dad, arguing with my dad, standing up to my dad. And so when I got into the industry, the music industry, which, as you so rightly say, is so male-dominated, I was not intimidated by a lot of the big hitters in business. They didn't frighten me. What reason, I'm not entirely sure, other than I think it's because I was able to stand up to my dad. So when somebody else came along, I was like, listen, my dad could never keep me under control. You don't have a hope in hell.
¿Qué tomaste del mundo de la moda? ¿Qué tomaste del mundo de las tendencias? Y dijiste, esto va a ser Garbage.
I grew up listening to David Bowie, Susie and the Banshees, and, Polystyrene from X-Ray Specs. I grew up like at a time when music was exploding with real individual talents and everybody was doing their own thing. So I was taught, like, if you're a musician in a band, you got to bring your own style to the equation, And then I also learned that anybody can wear anything, but you can smell, I think, when a person is authentically themselves. And that's what I'm always looking for in style, is how can I tell the authentic story of my band or our music with the way I'm presenting physically. I don't think of myself as a stylish person. I do make the decision to tell a story every time I present in the public. A lot of the women, like I think of L7 for a random example, they were wearing checkered shirts and pants and they were tough, and I loved that and I thought it was really exciting. But I didn't think I could be as cool as L7. So I was like, how do I present? And so I took a leaf out of Kylie Minogue's book, who had taken alternative culture and appropriated that into her pop persona. And I was like, I'm going to do the exact opposite of Kylie. Because I am an alt girl, I'm going to use a lot of hair and makeup, which was not considered cool back then. Like, to wear hair and makeup like the glamorous pop stars was kind of not alternative at all. I was like, I'm going to wear really glamorous makeup. I'm going to have my hair done the way I want it done. I'm going to wear colors because everyone was wearing black or dowdy colors. I was like, I'm going to wear neon colors because I was a club girl. I grew up dancing in clubs. And I loved that whole culture, and I loved all the fluorescent pinks and greens. And so, yeah, I emerged into the alternative world and I stood out. everybody was like, who the hell is this? You know, I had red hair for a start, like nobody had red hair. So I just think it was completely by default. Although I did make a few good decisions along the way.
Yes. ¿En qué estás hoy? ¿Qué es lo que te emociona hoy en día? ¿Y qué planes tienes a futuro?
Well, I'm doing this amazing shoot with your amazing team for Glamour. And then we've got a lot of touring plans for the rest of the year. So pretty much we'll be promoting this brand new record, which, of course, I know we all say this as musicians, but we're thrilled. I mean, it's always such a privilege to get to bring your music that you've worked on. Being here, getting the opportunity to talk about it is really wonderful. And it's not something I expected I would still be getting to do 30 years down the line. I've had a really long career. I'm aware how unusual that is still for women. Patti Smith's nearly 80. Debbie Harry, nearly 80. They're still headlining festivals all over the world. That's never been seen in the history of the world. We're also accustomed to be told that we hit 30, we've got a line, we've got a wrinkle for the first time in our lives, it's all over for us. And then you see these cultural figures who are like, I'm 80 years old and I'm headlining Glastonbury. And it's like, what? I mean, I've just given myself the chills. The world is changing and it's changing for women. And that I think is really exciting.
Increíble, me encanta. ¿Hay algo de tu vida personalmente, o sea, algo de Shirley como mujer que hubieras hecho diferente?
Now, this is a sticky question because I don't want it to be misconstrued.
Okay.
But for me, as a woman, I never wanted to trade on my sex appeal because I knew sooner or later, if I was lucky, I was going to get older. And all of a sudden, the sex appeal, you can't rely on it the way you can when you're young. And so, as I always say to young artists, you've got to have a second act, a third act, a fourth act, and a fifth act if you want to sustain a career. Most importantly, that is being able to write your own future. I feel like I've always been really honest and really straightforward. And that has got me in a lot of trouble, but it's also really been good for me in the long term because I am what you see. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to pretend I'm something I'm not. This is who I am, like it or lump it.
De pasar a ser esta mujer súper atrevida que no sigue tendencias, sino que impone tendencias y que hoy te conviertes en esta mentora para nuevas generaciones, ¿qué se siente? ¿Cómo lo experimentas?
I feel fantastic.
Yay.
Look, it's still surreal for me to hear that. Like, I feel like Garbage has struggled for a long, long time. Like, we had it really easy in the early days, and then it just got harder and harder and harder. And people told us we were rubbish and we should give up. And it was all over for Garbage. And yet somehow we just kept working and working. And then over the last few years, we've noticed a change. Like, we go out and play shows and there's young people at the barricade, like it that used to be in the 90s. Young people were like, whoa, where did these people come from? And then the same magazines that kind of were rude about us all of a sudden are interested again. It's still kind of strange for us. It kind of blows my brain a bit because my little sister, she's my biggest cheerleader. She's always like, you're an icon. Like, don't let them speak to you like that. And I'm like, I'm an icon? Like, you know, she's really funny. So it's wonderful and weird. And I don't take it for granted. And I know that it will pass. But it's a blast.
Ella fue Shirley Manson de Garbage para Bold Decisions. Gracias por esas decisiones que hiciste.
Gracias. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias.
And you.
Gracias.